Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be a tech video. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about why I think that everyone should have some kind of beater computer in their arsenal. I'm sure some of you might have heard the concept of a beater car, which usually refers to a car that's really cheap, pretty crappy, but still somewhat reliable, that you can use instead of driving, your more expensive or fancy car in inclement weather conditions, or if you want a car to pass on to your kid, just using just having a cheaper, crappier car that you can afford to lose in your collection. Likewise, I think that there's a great place for beater computers, and I just wanted to, show off mine. So this is a 2015 or 2016, I think, HP Stream 14. As you can see, it's got, quite a few scratches and marks on it. It's definitely not in perfect condition. Let me open it up a little bit and show you. See, even the hinge is pretty crappy, as you can see. I have to almost use both hands to get it open. But yeah, here's the laptop. So as you can see, it's got this weird kind of plastic finish on it. They have like this fake wood looking trim. I still left the Intel sticker on. The trackpad feels pretty cheap and plasticky and flimsy, but it's at least a decent size. Keyboard's not backlit. The keys themselves feel pretty cheap, but overall in terms of travel and usability, it's definitely pretty good. The screen is a very dim and crappy panel. It's about, I want to say it's maybe a TN panel. I don't know if it's IPS or not. Anyway, it doesn't get super bright either, so this is pretty much maximum brightness. I would say it's okay. The colors are pretty crappy still, but it's overall not bad. It's definitely usable. So this computer actually has really crappy specs. I believe it's got about 2 gigs of RAM only, which in 2021 is wild. And it's got about 32 gigs of flash storage, which is not much at all, especially when you factor in updates. In fact, I don't think I can even update Windows 10 beyond a certain point because there's physically not enough space on the drive, and I don't think I can add another one. And yeah, I think the processor itself, I believe, is an Intel Atom, and it's really crappy as well. Like, this thing is fairly slow. But I still think it's really valuable to have for a few different reasons. So reason number one is that I think something like this makes a great streaming device. Not streaming as in like Twitch streaming or video game streaming, but streaming as in streaming content. Let's say you don't have a smart TV. You could spend 30 bucks or 40 bucks or whatever the price may be on like a Roku or something along those lines, or you could pick up one of these laptops or just any kind of crappy computer in general for like well under $100. Brush it, freshen it up a little bit, maybe swap out a couple of parts here and there if you're fairly tech savvy, and you end up with something like this, which is a full-fledged computer that you can hook up to your TV. So you can, even browse the internet on this properly. If you spend like 20 bucks on a wireless keyboard and mouse, perfect. You can just sit on your couch and just browse the internet on your TV, and you have a lot more functionality than a Fire Stick or a Roku, which I think is really neat to have. And also, especially if you buy a laptop like this, you also have that portability factor. So you can just take this thing around anywhere. You can hook it up to different TVs. If you're going out of town somewhere and you don't want to take your main laptop or your fancier computer, you always have this crappy laptop to rely on. Reason number two is that as a Mac user, I really need a way to easily play retro video games. So something like this is great for playing retro games. For example, I'll see if I can get it open, but I do have Warcraft on this, Warcraft 3. And obviously this thing's not going to play any AAA titles anytime soon. But when it comes to at least having the capability to play some retro games and do so, with good frame rates, with good performance, I think this can't be beat. In my case, I don't really care much about AAA titles. I just want to be able to play older games, which usually, takes a lot of finicky stuff to get running on my Mac. So instead, having a cheap laptop like this gives me access to not only these vintage games, but also a lot of older software that is, might be PC specific. And the third reason I recommend a beater computer to anybody is redundancy. So even if you have your main laptop or your main computer, it's really fancy, that's great, but it's always great in the case of some kind of catastrophe or hardware failure to have something as a backup. Even if you back up your files, like sometimes just having a backup device altogether that you can then, continue if you want to check emails and just do basic tasks, just something that you can just immediately pick up if you're main computer needs to be sent out for repair or just runs into any kind of problems in general, it's always nice to have that backup and that redundancy. Even if this is a crappy computer, at least it beats not having any computer. I think a beater computer like this is a great addition to any arsenal. I do recommend a laptop over a desktop just for the portability factor and the fact that you have, built-in keyboard, mouse, and screen, even though they're not really that great. However, if you do want something that would stay in place, where if your intention is to play older games and watch movies or just stream content and have that connected to a TV and just kind of sit there permanently, then a desktop might also be a good buy. With a desktop, you can also get better bang for the buck versus a laptop, but then again, you lose out on that portability factor and the built-in components. As far as where to start, I would recommend checking out Facebook Marketplace, recommend checking out Craigslist as well. There's a lot of organizations out there, like government organizations, schools, etc., that go through these computers fairly frequently. And once they're done, they just kind of sell them off pretty cheap on Craigslist. It might also be old decommissioned hardware from some kind of company. A lot of times they'll be like Dell towers or Dell laptops. A lot of the time I see Dells. Especially if you're looking for a desktop, I think Dell is a really good bet. Just because you can get so many old enterprise hardware for fairly cheap. And sometimes all these computers need is just a little bit of work. Maybe it's just swapping out the hard drive for a solid state drive for that increased quality of life and speed. Just these small tweaks, a little bit of money that you might have to put in, but at the end of the day, you get a fantastic, mostly reliable computer that you can use for all kinds of different purposes. Again, whether it's watching videos online instead of having to use some kind of a Fire Stick or Roku or Apple TV, whether you want to play retro games, or maybe you just want to have that extra spare computer, or whatever the case may be. I think a cheap beater computer is definitely worth the price, and it's definitely worth having around. I've certainly enjoyed my HP Stream. Yeah, guys, again, that's a little showcase of this crappy HP Stream and why I think everyone needs some kind of a beater computer in their arsenal. So yeah, guys, if you like this video, please leave me a like. If you have any feedback, I would love a comment. And of course, subscribe to this channel and stay tuned because I'm going to continue posting videos every single day. They might not be all on tech, they might be on different topics, but either way, I certainly think it's worth checking out. If you feel that way too, a subscribe would be amazing. All right, I'll catch you tomorrow.